Okay, so I got a little different video for you guys today. I picked up this camera for 60 bucks from a fellow, and it is quite a nice camera, but as we can see we have some issues. But I'm going to show you what you should do when you're going to pick up a camera and see whether or not you should purchase it. So this is a Nikon D3200. So we're going to go over everything. So first off, I'm going to just remove the strap because there's no reason to have it as of right now. Plus I want to wash it, so it's a huge thing. Okay, so yeah, remove the strap. I'm going to clean that. We'll clean that later. Okay, so here we have the camera. First thing we're going to look at is, of course, the battery compartment. See how the door moves. So it lost some of its springiness, if it even had a spring. But we're going to look deep inside of there. I should probably have my auxiliary light. So yeah, we're going to look inside the battery compartment. See what we're looking at. I don't see any major debris. This battery compartment looks pretty good, so I think we're squared away on that. Let's see if I can bring my light a little closer. So I think we're squared away on that. Nothing too crazy. Just the spring is missing, so I'm gonna pop the battery in. Make sure the battery's not bulging at any way. Another thing I like to look at is the bottom, to make sure that thread mount is all good. If the sticker is good, this will kind of tell you how much this person used it. It doesn't look like they used it on a tripod much, so it was handheld most of the time. So next we're going to take a look at the screen. The screen is rather dirty, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Of course I'm going to get a Lysol wipe. I'm going to just give it a quick wipe so I can see things a little bit better. Okay, that looks a lot better. Now I can see all the fine details and what little scratches there are. If there are little scratches. This doesn't matter too much. Most people put a screen protector. If not, the glass usually can be replaced, especially if it's just an analog screen, or you can get a secondary screen. But that could be a huge factor for you. So next, let's look at the SD card slot. I already put an SD card in here. We got to make sure everything functions, the door functions, everything's functioning. Plug an SD card in, make sure it goes in easy and actually sticks. That one sticks, so that's good. You want to click all the buttons, make sure they have some sort of feedback. If they do, that's good. This is all before turning on the camera. Rotate the dial. You can pull this part off, the viewfinder cup. You pull it off. It's rather dirty, but you want to be able to notice that it adjusts. That adjusts to your eyesight, so that's good. Next, let's take a look at the AV ports. Everything looks really clean right here, so it looks like nobody ever touched this side. So that's really good. That's a good sign. Okay, next we're gonna open the flash. Looks like the flash won't open unless the camera's on. That's fine. We're gonna rotate the dial. We're gonna look at the hot shoe mount. Make sure all these connections are good. If these connections are messed up, then we can't use a flash. We can't use, different accessories on this camera. So that's always something to look at. So make sure all of these dial, the accessories, we can use them. Click these buttons up top. These have some stick to them. So I believe something got spilled over here. And you can kind of notice something did. So that's something I have to take a look at and see if they actually work. Okay, so now at this point, we can go ahead and turn on the camera. And that was really sticky. That was really sticky. So it doesn't click, there's no audible feedback. So that's something that needs to be adjusted. So as you can see here, we have a picture, which is awesome. So we have the SD card. First thing we want to do is probably take a picture. So I'm going to hit live view. See if the autofocus works. The autofocus works. Take a photo. Awesome, so we got a photo. So next we gotta see if the shutter speed is working. Shutter speed is not working. Oh, we gotta put on manual mode. So manual mode, shutter speed works, the dial works. So now let's see if the aperture dial works. Aperture dial works. On a Nikon, you have to press this button up here to adjust the aperture. So aperture works, that's good to know. So we've gotten all that. Go to the menus, we can take a look at all the menus, but this is gonna be the next thing we do. So we go to the menu, and here's all our menu items. Looks like the board is working, so that's good. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to this settings right here, the little screw, and we're gonna take a look at, where is it? Oh, I'm on the wrong thing maybe. We're gonna look at the mirror cleaning, or the sensor cleaning. So let's go ahead and find that. There should be a mode. Flash, image stabilization, there we go. Maybe, there we go. So I think we have to program it in auto. Guide mode, we don't need that. Auto, let's see if we put it in auto. So you have to put it in auto, so that way we can do the mirror lockup. So we want to hit the mirror lockup for, press the shutter button, okay. So we locked up the mirror, we're going to take off the lens, and now we can look at the sensor. So when you're looking at the sensor, a big thing you want to look for is any cleaning marks and scratches or discoloration, because that's huge. And this one is in immaculate condition. It's a little dirty. There's dust on the sensor, I can clearly see that, but nothing that we can't just blow off. So that's fine. And this is a crop sensor, so that's also something to look at. So let's go ahead and put the lens back on, turn off the camera, turn it back on so that way we can protect it. So we got the mirror back down, that's good. Now we can inspect the mirror and the viewfinder. So looking at the mirror, there's no scratches, nothing on the mirror. The viewfinder, which is down underneath here, doesn't look too bad. That's replaceable. The viewfinder is replaceable. The mirror, not so, it's a lot more complicated, but that's all replaceable. Nothing too crazy there. The sensor was the biggest issue, but now that we got that we're good. So overall, this camera is good to go. I forgot to check the flash. And the flash doesn't want to come up. There it goes. It's a little sticky flash. But overall, all can be cleaned. So there's that. Now let's take a look at the lens. So if I'm looking at a modern lens, what I'm going to use, and I don't have a camera, I'm going to take a look at the front element. I'm going to just clean it off. For me, I didn't need to clean it off because I knew what I was looking at, and so I didn't want to necessarily clean it off. I didn't have the tools to do that. So I'm looking at the front element. There's a lot of micro abrasions on this front element, probably because there was no lens cap or filter. But I'm going to go ahead and test everything. I'm going to switch the switches into manual, and then it should allow me to adjust. It opens and closes good. Now the rear element's mostly where you want to take a look at a lot of other things. This is where you can have a lot of issues if the rear element's messed up. Front element, abrasions and stuff like that are not going to affect your photo. The rear element is where it's going to affect your photo. So as you're looking through here, you want to try and get an angle to where you can see some of those aperture blades. So as you can see that little hole where that aperture is. It's always going to be on the lowest aperture setting, which is going to be the highest aperture it goes, but you want to kind of inspect it and see if you see any oil on those blades. You can do the same from the front, it's just a little bit harder because you have that coating. So I'm just looking through, I don't see any oil on the aperture blades. The contacts look good. The bayonet mount part, which this is plastic, Looks good, there's no chipping, and it looks like it's a pretty well put together lens. If I switch it to auto, I don't have any functionality of the manual focus, so that's good. That lets me know that switch is working. There's some dust, but there's no significant dust in the lens that I have to take apart and clean. Maybe a little bit on the rear element, but that's not too hard. So that's a good lens. So now, after overall looking this over, I would be comfortable purchasing this camera for a good price. So that is something that you can always take to account. It seems to be a functioning camera. Hopefully this kind of helps you take a look at what you're looking at when you're going to purchase a camera. The key things that you need to look at is you definitely want to get that mirror lifted up, or at least take a look at the sensor. This is a DSLR, so of course I have to move the mirror up. If it was a regular mirrorless camera, then you would just see the sensor right away, and you want to take a look. While you're taking a test photo, always bring an SD card. Always take a test photo. What you're looking for is you don't want any lines, and I'll try and see if I can find a video of it. So when I did this, you can see that there's no lines in this photo. There's no lines. If there's a line in the photo, like a deep green line, just a small hair line on the photo, that means that the sensor is messed up and you shouldn't buy the camera unless you're going to use it for parts or something. Another thing to think of is if you do get a camera and you notice that the sensor is scratched, that is the covering glass of the sensor that is scratched, and that can, you have a couple of options. You can get it and then take photos with it and then, you know, edit that out in post, or you can pick up the camera for cheaper, send it in to get the glass replaced, or you can get the glass removed and replaced with the infrared glass, or you can take it apart and remove the glass yourself to make it an infrared camera. So that's something I might do with this one, and then I'll probably give this camera away, or I will just take a look at it and see how this camera works, and then we'll go from there. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Hope that helps.